it's my pleasure to invite you, Hui, again, sorry for my bad pronunciation, from GWO China committee, and you will speak about safety training in wind energy, a very important aspect, and I think Goldwind was already making reference to the work that you're doing. Now we look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm going to share my screen first.
Excellent.
Thank you. The screen, Stephen? Is
yes.
that okay?
Perfect. Yes.
All right. Thank you. And dear President He also, thank you for the invitation to this webinar. It's an honor to have this opportunity to share with you safety training in the wind energy industry. And there are three parts of the presentation. One is the status of GWO safety training. One is demand in the future. And also another point we want to emphasize, digitalization. So what is GWO safety training? Actually, the previous speakers, Mr. He already mentioned a little bit in his presentation in Goldwind. What is GWO? GWO, Global Wind Organization, is a non-profit organization organized by wind turbine manufacturers and owners, aiming at an injury-free work environment in the wind energy industry by setting common international standards for safety training. So there are BST, basic safety training, which includes first aid, fire awareness, working at height, manual handling, sea survival, and BTT, mechanical, electrical, hydraulic installation, and several newly introduced standards. Actually, we can see some pictures from Mr. He's presentation about the GWO training already. But GWO is not only an organization that sets up standards, it also runs an ecosystem. GWO itself doesn't provide training services, but there are training providers all over the world that use GWO standards. Once they are audited by the qualified certification bodies, they can provide GWO training service, and then GWO will they can issue the delegates and certificates with the GWO logo, and they will update information of the delegates to the wind ID of GWO, so that those records can be searched and tracked worldwide, which means if you take GWO training from one location at any corner of the world, it will be recognized internationally. So if you're trained in China, when you stepped out of China to work in Europe, in South Africa, South America, Africa, it will be recognized also over there. So it will save time and efforts. It won't be double trained. That was the goal, one of the goals of GWO. By the end of 2019, almost 90,000 people representing 194 nationalities hold valid GWO training certificate already. The GWO training workforce rose about 20% year on year, which means in 2020, there will be 111,000 workforce trained according to GWO standards. But GWO has modules, so one person can have one or more than one modules trained. As I said before, over there, like first aid, fire awareness, different modules. So by the end of the year, no, in the year of 2019, actually, GWO training providers delivered almost 200,000 modules. And in 2020, we are expecting to reach 247,000 modules trained in the whole world. Here is a map about the distribution of training providers that are providing GWO safety training. As you can see that Europe is already pretty well covered because GWO originally is from Europe. And also you can see that in China, in North America, in South America, and also Africa, the increment is pretty big. And to help and promote GWO better in this big market in China, we created the GWO China Committee by GWO and CWEA. Now we have about 40 members in the Chinese GWO China Committee, covering owners, wind turbine manufacturers, training equipment manufacturers, third-party training institutions, third-party certificate bodies, and the insurance company, and so on. As you can see that I put some logos of the companies over there. Goldwind is definitely one of them. It has all the models covered already, alongside with Shanghai Electric. So they are providing training service in China. They are the biggest driving force here. There is the statistics we have. In 2019, the number of GWO issued certificates in China reached 3,050. As you can see that in 2017, it's only 660. That was like, because GWO entered China in 2016, basically. So we see a very big increment in the past 4 or 5 years. Now there are total 12 training providers in China, located in several provinces in China. As you can see, I emphasized on the map. So let's talk about the demand in the future. I want to give you a case scenario. I wouldn't focus on the overall increment of wind energy, but offshore wind energy here. So here is some statistics from GWO basically. So we have this increasing trend of the installation capacity of offshore winds. So that is 29.1 gigawatts by the end of 2019. So GWO expects 50 gigawatts of new installations by 2024, 5 years later. And also, European policymakers are looking to installations of 450 gigawatts in 2050, while the rest of the world will possibly deploy as much as 500 gigawatts offshore wind by 2050. What about China offshore? China has become one of the major markets for offshore wind, of course, in recent years, with the installed offshore capacity reaching 7 gigawatts by the end of 2019, with an annual growth rate of 55%. According to ARENA, there would be significant offshore wind deployment in China. Installation capacity would reach about 56 gigawatts by 2030 and 382 gigawatts by 2050. Why would I mention those numbers over here? That means there will be a very large demand of workforce in offshore wind. Let's not talk about offshore wind in the future. What's the current situation here? Demand workforce at this moment and the training providers that could provide proper training. So roughly estimated, China may have nearly 40,000 offshore wind workforce by now, 40,000. By the end of the year of 2020, China will have like 4 training centers who can provide sea survival training. Let's make assumption that each training provider can provide 100 courses of sea survival training. That is like twice per week. So one course would have 12 technicians attending. That is according to the GWO standards. So each year we will have like 4,800 technicians trained, only 12% of the need by now. So that will take like 8 years to get all the technicians trained, which means we need to get more training providers that could provide proper training, especially in sea survival training, because it does bring a lot of risk to the technicians over there. And we've already seen a lot of accidents from those technicians. And in the past year, in September of 2019, we had this global strategy session in Denmark. So all of these big OEMs and also developers participated the meeting. So we set up a goal in the coming 3 years. For example, 2022, we would have like 200,000 workforce trained according to GWO standards, 450 modules completed, That is quite ambitious, actually. So how are we going to achieve that? So that will be the third part of my presentation, digitalization. That is definitely one of the solutions we can achieve our ambitious goal. So let me introduce some, the facts of the training under the pandemic of the coronavirus. So that is 2018, 2019. So you can see from the beginning, like the second quarter of the 2020, you see the decrement of the trained workforce from GWO. That is due to the pandemic, first in China and then Europe, US, and all over the world. We definitely see the decrement because of the traveling restrictions. People cannot go to the training sites. People cannot gathering. So that is kind of the limits of the current training measures. And then GWO introduced this online partial refresher, BSTRP, in April 2020. That is very quick response by GWO. And I have like 3 screenshots that is done by Vichai Vestas. So people can do the refresher of the training course online with their mobile phones over there. So that definitely helps those delegates to refresh their skills, because after 2 years the skills will fade, but it doesn't require them to take the full course to renew their certificates, but only some refresher courses. So they develop these applications. People can do that during their very flexible time. So they don't have to take the course like the whole day, but they can take like 2 hours here and 2 hours there, very flexible and also low cost. And this experiment actually opens the door for digitalization training. So GWO put the digitalization training on top of GWO's standards, and also organized a few webinars like this one to see the challenges, the benefits, and what we can do about this new topic. And here are the 3 webinars we were talking about. Like, first of all, how are we going to guarantee the quality of learning? Are we going to rewrite the standards? How are the training providers build their capability to provide high quality training with this new idea? For example, are we going to use mobile, computer, VR, AR, those kinds of new technologies? Those kind of stuff were discussed. And the second webinar were about how are the certification bodies guarantee the quality of the training, because now it's only about the third-party certification body. When they do the auditing, they will check how the training providers are providing those training surveys. But when it becomes digitalized training, so it will have new problems to solve. For example, a remote audit, on-site audit. So they are all open questions to be discussed. And then the third one is about, is digitalization going to help the growth of GWO training? So there are like 4 or 5 expertise in the webinar, and also a lot of audience over there to see what we can do. That is, I think, the final question we have to answer. Is that digitalization going to be the best solution, or one of the best solutions to help the growth and adoption of GWO standards? And finally, I want to go back to this map because you've already seen a lot of dots over there in Europe. We definitely want to see more dots on other parts of the map, especially in China, in North America, and then some rising markets, India, Africa. So we also would like to welcome people who are interested in this area, so we can get some collaboration to really promote this very valuable training method and the training concept. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. That was also an excellent presentation. And I'm sure that what you said, where you have the gaps, there is also a need, and we work, of course, with people from there. Certainly be very useful indeed to bring those people together and help them to get the training that you're already doing, which is such an important part. Now, thank you at this point of time to our Chinese speakers. I think we have now an excellent idea of the situation of, in particular, wind power training in China.